allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian.
Here.
Trustee South.
Here.
Trustee Unger.
Here.
Trustee Peckmeyer.
Here.
Trustee McFall.
Here.
Trustee Olet.
Here.
President Siborowski.
Here, thank you. Looking for approval of minutes, regular board meeting, June 3rd, 2025.
I'd like to make a motion for the village board to approve the regular board meeting minutes of June 3rd, 2025, as we've all had them dispersed to us ahead of time and a chance for review.
Second the motion?
Any discussion at all?
I hope they look good to me.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian.
Here.
Trustee South.
Aye.
Trustee Unger.
Abstain.
Trustee Peckmeyer.
Aye.
Trustee McFall.
Aye.
Trustee Olet.
Aye.
President Siborowski.
Aye. Citizens' comments. Persons wishing to address the board are asked to state their name and address for record. Limit their comments to only one time. Limit their comments to 3 minutes or 5 minutes if representing a group of persons. Citizens' comments shall be limited to a period not to exceed 30 minutes. All the comments should be addressed to the village board as a body. Any questions or comments directed to any individual trustee or staff person will be deemed out of order. Please note the village board can only discuss matters listed on the agenda. We are open.
Hi, good evening, President, Manager, and trustees. I'm here to March Hill, 7745 Cedar Ridge, Franklin, or 5680 Broad Street, Greendale, take your pick. I'm here tonight just to kind of give you a little update on what the Historical Society has been up to this, our 50th anniversary year. So to date, in the last month or so, these are the more interesting tours that we did. We had the 8th grade teachers at the middle school ask if we would walk all 200 of them and give them a historical walking tour of Greendale, which we did. It rained. A couple days later, we had the 2nd graders from Highland View School, the teachers asking if they could walk up to the host tower like they did last year with their little backpacks and have a ride on the fire engine and do a scavenger hunt. We said, sure, we'd love to. It rained. Then we had 50 guests coming on a big motor coach from the Green Bay area. They came to Greendale because they heard National Baking was 100 years old and they're foodies. So they drove down for a donut. And they got in at 9:30 in the morning, had their donut, walked over to the Historical Society and the Welcome Center. We split them up into 2 groups, gave them a tour of the Welcome Center. The other half went up to our house on Apple Court. They got a tour of that. And then they switched around and the other half came down. And the last half went up to Apple Court. It rained all day that day, and trying to walk them around to the village stores. Galleria Greendale opened early that day, for them, and it rained, but we walked over there anyhow. So we didn't have good weather this spring for some of our bigger tours, but that's what we've been up to. Last Saturday at the Welcome Center, we had the launch of our cookbook, which is officially the Historic Greendale Community Cookbook. And we had many sales. We had a very good turnout. People came to sample recipes that were made from the cookbook. And that was really popular. So we had good sales, and we're happy that the book is being received. And I think if you take a peek, you all have one. Right? Thanks to Jim Berger.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
So anyhow, that was a fun event too. The Historical Society was pleased to be able to pay for the publishing of that. And all the proceeds, of course, are going to go to running the Welcome Center. So we're happy about that. So, and then the last thing that we did recently is on my board, 4 of the people on my board and I attended the Trimborn Farm meeting, which was an open meeting, so the county could hear what the people in Greendale would like to have done with Trimborn Farm. It was really disappointing to learn that Trimborn Farm is in such terrible repair. If anybody would be interested in taking this property over, before they can do $1 of remodeling, they would have to do the the deferred repairs. At first, they said it was a little more than $1 million, and now I heard the other day from the county supervisor, it's $1.5 million of deferred repairs on that beautiful property. So, well, there's one thing that everybody agreed on that evening, and other people that talked about it, the people that live in the G section around Trimborn Farm, and all of us, we are all in agreement that we don't want it torn down, we don't want condos, we don't want a developer coming in and building apartments. We want to save it. Everybody wants to save it. It's just a question of who's going to come up with $1.5 million before you start turning it into some of the ideas were a winery with a restaurant, a beer garden, other style restaurants, advertise the barns more for wedding events. I said to the guy from the county, how much did Trimborn Farm bring in last year? $8,000. I said, for the year? He said, yeah, and then someone else said, well, they never advertise that those barns are available, but they have very stringent restrictions. The guests, if you have a wedding there, the guests have got to be off the grounds by 9 o'clock in the evening, and if there's a band, there can be no amplification at all. So a lot of people come and check it out, and then they don't like those restrictions. But so it was kind of disappointing to hear how sad the property is, and then of course along with it comes, oh my God, I'm out of time. I got 2 more things. The Jeremiah Curtin House is part of this project, and the Jeremiah Curtin House, if we're going to use it at all, has no running water. So that's going to be a great big bill too. But there are some people with plans. There's talk of making a Friends of the Farm, and I just learned that it's called Firefly Grove, the brand new park in Wauwatosa. I can hardly believe this, but the park was paid for entirely with grants. There was no money out at the village of Wauwatosa, and there was no money from citizens. It was totally funded by grants, and I got a list of the grants, the grant people. So, and the entrance to it was, they told me, was an anonymous donation, but it actually was Waterstone Bank, which has been very good to the Historical Society. So I feel we can start with a partner there, and some of these grants we'll look into. So now I feel like there's a little hope for saving that beautiful property. So that's what's in the past. And then just real quick, July 20th, is that, I can't think.
No, sorry, it's past the 5 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
There's another citizen comment at the end.
Yeah, just pick up, Marge, there's another one later where you can pick up.
You can do the second citizen comment at the end if you want to stay.
It's my son's birthday, and picking me up in 2 minutes to go to dinner, so. Can you talk?
Yeah, he can.
Oh, Jim.
He's not wrong. Not that good.
All right, Jamie.
Hey, Jamie?
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, picks up nice. All right. Thank you for having me. My name is James Marhefka, and I'm the Vice President of the Greendale Police Citizens Academy Alumni Association. I want to thank you all for allowing me a few minutes to provide a little bit of information about the Citizens Academy, our Alumni Association, and ask for your assistance. The Greendale Police Citizens Academy was established in 2020 to provide an opportunity for citizens to learn about the police department and the many operations and duties used to keep the community safe. The Academy is conducted annually as a multi-week course meeting 1 night per week. The diverse curriculum is taught by members of the Greendale Police Department and contains lectures, ride-alongs, and hands-on activities that educate and provide citizens insight into the many functions of the police department. The program fosters a growing pool of well-informed graduates who can share their knowledge and insights with others and become active participants in preventing crime in the community. To date, a total of 45 people have enrolled in the classes. This year's 2025 class begins on October 1st and will be the 5th Academy class conducted by the police department. Upon completion of the second academy class, the Alumni Association was formed. We are a small, Wisconsin-based, not-for-profit corporation comprised of volunteer members, all who have successfully completed the Citizens Academy. Our mission statement is short and sweet. The Alumni Association is committed to support law enforcement in the village of Greendale, Wisconsin, and the Greendale community as a whole through education, information, recognition, fundraising, and service to the community. We are also compelled to utilize the association as a social vehicle. We want our members to engage with one another and with members of the community to have a good time and to support community business and events. One aspect of our existence is fundraising. Our initial fundraising campaign ended in 2023. It was extremely successful. Our efforts resulted in the procurement of 2 bicycles and associated equipment to enable standing up a new police bicycle unit to conduct bicycle patrols in the community. Going forward, we have some new and interesting items in hand, things that will assist our officers in their efforts and actions within the community. As in previous years, we'll be raising funds via yard sign sales and by donation. This is one of the yard sign sales, or one of the yard signs, I should say. We will be set up to provide sign sales, academy and association information, and take donations at the downtown market. We are scheduled from 8 o'clock till noon on the following Saturdays: June 21st, July 12th, August 2nd, September 6th, and October 4th. We are happy to inform that all our yard signs are pre-tariff, it's a joke, and still $15. If you can't catch us on one of our scheduled days, you can also purchase a yard sign 24 hours a day, sign at the service center in the safety center any other time. Here's where I shift gears and beg for your engagement and your assistance. If you haven't yet enrolled and participated in one of the previous Citizens Academies, I would extremely urge you to invest the time to do so. Without exception, every participant to date has had a very positive thing to say about their involvement. I can assure you that you will learn something about the police department that works tirelessly for the safety of the community in which we all live. I think it's also safe to say that you will have some fun. Whether you partake of the class or not, I would also respectfully ask that you take an active role in promoting both the Academy and the Alumni Association. Please tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, and your constituents about what you've heard me talk about tonight. We are your friends, we are your neighbors, and active members of our community. We are motivated to support the Citizens Academy and grow the Alumni Association. We want to ensure that the members of our community are aware of the efforts the police put forth every day and the many challenges they face in the ever-changing world. We want to be able to support them and our community in ways that we can. The Alumni Association provides us with an avenue to do just that. Once again, I thank you all for your time this evening and for the opportunity to tell you about the Citizens Academy and the Alumni Association. Thank you all very much and have a good night.
Thank you.
Can we get your address?
$15.
Can we get your address, please? Address?
My home address?
Yes, sir.
5408 Middleton Drive.
Thank you.
The Academy is at 5911 West Grange.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Joe Russ, 5599 Basswood Street. First of all, I'd like to thank the Park and Rec Department and Nancy Farrell for another successful plant exchange a week and a half ago. I attended a public hearing for Boston Story Development 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, only 3 residents showed up and 2 trustees. I expressed a number of concerns, which I will repeat here. Of note, Mr. Barrett was not at the meeting, but his minions were. I did see a quote in the paper how great him saying how great the meeting went with no objections, which isn't true. Also, it should be stated that as of March, his downtown project still didn't have sidewalks completed, and at last we're only about 40% occupied. Can we expect the same situation here? In January, Barrett Lowe the company that managed the rentals was sued by the Department of Justice for price fixing. If they don't do proper vetting of a subcontractor, can we expect the same here? And a traffic impact study is yet to be done. 2 commissioners expressed concern over the park Greendale was going to get in the middle of the development and the expense it would be. One even cited the village's pending fiscal cliff. Staff chimed in, and after a few minutes, sputtering for an answer, finally said that that was part of the developer's agreement the village board signed in 2021, 4 years ago. After the meeting, I talked to one commissioner who said, quote, "The board tied our hands," unquote. If you tied the Plan Commission's hands on the whole project 4 years ago, why bothering have it go through them? Why bother with public meetings if the project you want is going to be jammed down our throats? The discussion a few months ago on whether they, the Plan Commission, or you should have the approval rights now becomes clear who wants control. And it makes me wonder if anyone on this board is getting a kickback for their work on this project. Speaking of meetings, it was nice to see at least 2 board members showed up for the Trimborn Farm meeting 2 weeks ago, although only one spoke and the other seemed to want to hide under the table. Trimborn Farm is a very important part of Greendale, and it's a shame that all the trustees couldn't be there. I know one had a legit reason for not being there. As for the rest of you, laziness is not an excuse. Thank you.
Any other comments for citizens' comments? See none, I will close it. I'm going to ask the board if I can please move up item ABOT 2559, new business, next, if you guys would be okay with that.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Got that started.
Item A, BOT 2559, discussion and necessary action regarding application submitted by Barrett Lowell Visionary Development requesting a planned development overlay district under section 17.108 of the Greendale Municipal Code on the property located at 5300 South 76th Street, tax key number 650-9990-031, the former Boston Store parcel, number 2509 PC 25-09. Manager?
Sure. So Barrett Lowell Visionary Development has submitted an application for a planned development PD overlay district for the proposed redevelopment of the former Boston Store property. This is the first phase of a multi-step rezoning process to facilitate the demolition and redevelopment in alignment with the village's long-term goals for the site. It was initially presented to the Plan Commission on June 4th, which had a public hearing. And the Plan Commission made a recommendation to the village board to approve the application subject to the conditions outlined in the village planner's memo dated May 30th and the village engineer's memo dated May 30th as well. And so at this point, the village board has the opportunity to consider approval of the application. And then when approved, the applicant will submit a precise implementation plan application relating to a more detailed plans for the first phase of the project. So tonight we have representatives from the applicant from the KTGY architecture firm. They're prepared to make a presentation to present an overview of the application. And we also have our planners on this project here as well to give an overview of their review as well as our village engineer. So Mr. President, you can turn it over to KTGY to present their application.
All right, sounds good. If you guys could present.
You can pull that forward.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry, this will take me a second to set up here. All right, my name is Nathaniel Hollister. I am representing KTGY Architecture out of Chicago. I'm here with another colleague, Radama. So we are working for BLVD to develop this plan. And so a number of you were here last time, and we're excited to present it again. Unfortunately, it's essentially the same presentation, so this will be a repeat for many of you. but hopefully it's still helpful. So what we're going to be talking about today is a master plan, meaning we're seeking to set the groundwork for a development, but not yet talk about the architecture and the specifics of of the plan itself. So it's an overview of what could become. As you may know, this is a master plan site within the mall. So looking at the existing Boston store that's unused at the moment, the extent of the plan there is highlighted in blue. So that's sort of the extent of the development that we'll be talking about. North is to the left in this image, and then the ring road is sort of at the edge of the zone in blue there. So this is zooming in a little bit more, so you can see it again, the ring road right here, and the existing Boston store sort of highlighted in black there. The entire site area that we're looking at is 645,000 square feet, and we're looking at a total gross building area of a little bit over 1 million square feet. The total development, which is planned over a series of phases, is 739 units, with a parking ratio of 1.4 parking stalls per unit, and then a separate retail parking ratio of 1 spot per 300 square feet of retail. As we began looking at this site and the opportunities here, we sort of set up 3 goals for the project. One is to activate. We have a zone which is actually very unique in terms of city planning. We're looking at a mall where we're not immediately adjacent to residential. So we have an opportunity to create a pedestrian-oriented mixed-use extension of the village. I think, and we think as a firm, this is really unique, and you're seeing these developments in mall situations specifically across the country because it's a significant amount of area that's not being utilized in the way that it could be. So unlike the farm that you guys were mentioning earlier, this is it's different. It doesn't have the same historical context. You're in sort of a parking lot, and so it's a great opportunity. Second main goal we sort of set forward were to create a substantial amount of green space. And this was sort of a reference to Greendale's history and creating a central green space, again, where there is none today. And third, it's about revitalizing an area. So again, there's an active mall there, but this portion could use some activity and revitalization. So the thought of adding 740 units to this zone and sort of supporting it, helping it. Again, looking at that same site plan we looked at before, the basic planning idea in this master plan was to sort of create a visual connection to the mall as you come in off the ring road. So users would still be able to very clearly be directed to the mall, and then also making sure that we're still providing access to mall loading and things like that. And then this idea of the village green sort of in the central of it. So as we developed that and thought about it, we have it planned now in 4 specific phases. So phase 1 would be the closest, and that would be basically where the Boston Mall is standing today. And then phase 2, 3, and 4 would come later at a later date. The Village Green, as we looked at it, we wanted it to be a substantial space, a space that would feel pedestrian friendly. And so in terms of the dimensions of it, the green space itself are 252 feet by 71 feet. And then just to give you a bit of scale, if you took this entire size here, that's about the size of a football field. There's a lot of precedents around the country for this type of space surrounded by sort of a similar scale building. So we're sort of showing a similar size in Fargo. It's called Block 9. It's about 18,000 square feet of area total. Again, when we talk about the 15,000 square feet, it's just the green area. It doesn't count the paving or anything like that. So as we plan these buildings, we thought a lot about where people would access them, where the residential drop-offs would be, and spent a lot of time trying to make this central zone active and pedestrian friendly. So you'll see, the residential parking and the loading are off to the sides, right next to where the mall loading is today. And then you see these main access roads from the ring road and from the mall. This is a diagram of what the ground floor is or could be. Again, it's very diagrammatic, but what we're showing in pink are the retail zones that are planned, and then yellow are sort of the lobby and amenity spaces. So again, creating a lot of activity sort of in that central zone. These are some sample images of what that paving pattern could look like, what the streetscape could look like. We don't have our landscape architect here today. He was with us a couple weeks ago. So he spoke a little bit about these paving patterns and different raised planters. All this is to come, right? This is sort of, we're just talking about the master plan right now, but these are the types of ideas in detail that will be coming at a later date. Also important to us is setting the rules for the streetscape and the size. So this diagram is talking about the width of streets in the development. So a typical street, this is cut through the two buildings here. We're looking at a generous 20-foot sidewalk with a street parking on both sides, but one is parallel and one is angled so that the street itself doesn't get too wide. It's still pedestrian friendly. And then thinking about setbacks for the buildings, articulation at the ground floor being pedestrian friendly. This is another section, so it's cut through the village green. You can see that cut there in red. So you have sidewalks and streets, then the village green. And then the village green, the idea is that, with this circulation that's planned, there'd be opportunity to close those streets off and actually, have a larger scale pedestrian event or village event that doesn't interfere with the mall traffic. So that was sort of the idea for some of the landscape and the planning for the streets. The next series of diagrams are going to be talking about the massing of the building. How large is it, how large, how tall, and what can we do to make sure that it's scaled appropriately for a village like Greendale. So this is the full development with all phases shown. Again, the mall, there's over here. The Boston store was sitting here, so this would be phase 1. And then the village green is sort of highlighted there in red. So in the master plan development, we've sort of set a series of rules that will have to be followed by whatever development takes place next. And one of these is about the ground floor experience. So what we're highlighting here in red is the idea that at the base of each of these buildings, there will be an articulation, whether it's a setback or a special material, to make sure that it is pedestrian friendly, to give articulation to the buildings, to be mindful of the pedestrian experience. And then the next portion of the building is sort of the typical floors. And the idea here would be to create an active facade with outdoor amenity spaces for the residents, whether it's inset balconies or terraces that shoot out from the building to create a vibrant and active facade. And then finally, on the tallest of the phases would be this idea of setting back that final, the highest level, setting it back from the street. Again, think about the pedestrian experience, make sure that it's scaled appropriately for the village green and the mall and the areas around it. So this diagram, again, is beginning to speak about what that could look like on phase 1 of the project. So the idea of at the base, looking at a zone that has setback and a special materiality. We're looking at things like masonry and brick to create a texture and a feel that's pedestrian friendly. We're showing portals here about thinking about creating a scale that's appropriate, something that's enjoyable to walk past and walk through. And then the second is this idea of this active facade, balconies, pedestrian spaces, places where people can walk out and look at the village green, keep it active, make sure it's not sterile. And then 3, the setback. So taking that last floor and setting it back some distance to create, again, an opportunity for a large amount of outdoor space and more activity. And this is just another view, sort of the same idea of that articulation at the ground floor that marches around. At this corner is where we have planned for a retail spot, and then the lobby would be over here. And that's the summary of it. So hopefully I didn't go too fast there, and hopefully it wasn't boring for people who have seen it already. We're excited for it. We're excited to hopefully see it move to the next phase. Thank you.
Any questions? Vice Chancellor?
Thank you for the presentation. I do have a number of questions. I have about 7 or 8 questions, and I don't know if you can answer them or if some of the other consultants can answer them. Sure. Some of the questions are mine, and some of them came from residents who could not be here. I know that maybe the answers are in this 90-page packet or in the redevelopment agreement, or maybe they will be addressed down the road when we consider the PIPs. But I thought I'd ask them so you can all hear what's on people's minds.
Sure.
So the first one is, how are emergency personnel going to navigate that road around the green space? And has our fire department personnel been talked to about that?
And have you taken into consideration emergency vehicles, the sizes of them, and even ones from other municipalities that might get dispatched to Greendale?
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, that's an important question. And, yeah, we've had preliminary discussions with the fire marshal here, and all those things are required. So there will have to be a lot of discussions about turning radiuses and making sure that a vehicle can get along the appropriate amount of facade for each of the phases. So that conversation started, and it'll continue to make sure that we're providing everything that the fire department needs.
Okay. The next question is, I've had some concern, and I think it was brought up during Plan Commission about that loading dock area. Will trucks and semis be driving through alongside that green space to access that loading dock, or are they entering from a different side of the development?
Sure, yeah. I think that's another good question. So in terms of the way that the truck maneuvers, so there have been a series of diagrams by our civil engineers already to look at, maneuverability of a semi, right? Making sure that someone can get back there. There are two different paths to get there, right? So you could come through the village green, or from what would be the south. There will be access from the south as well.
Okay.
So there's multiple ways to get there. I think the south would be where we'd point most trucks to go to. So that would be the basic idea.
Do you have any idea how frequently
Yeah,
the
we
mall
visited.
is receiving deliveries at that side of the mall?
It's fairly active.
Oh, it is,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Let's see here. I crossed off one of the things because I think I can answer that question of the resident on my own. So one of the residents asked about the types of trees, the numbers of trees, will they be well-suited for high-traffic environment? I believe that the board will probably approve a landscape plan separately on its own, so we can get more detail on that, is that correct?
Yeah, so the next stage of the development, the PIP will include plant species specifically. So Grafe, our landscape engineer, is already working on that, but they'll be specifying exact plant types at the next stage.
Okay,
And they would be thinking about things, yeah, just like that, making sure it's a species that's, can survive, and, they're also local, so they understand this environment and this place.
okay. Another question I received was whether or not porous pavers would be incorporated. I believe I read that somewhere to reduce runoff, and I think you showed pictures. Is that
Yep,
going to
so,
happen?
Yep. So again, that'll be a little bit more detail in the PIP, but I think this diagram begins to speak to it. So all of this is actually permeable pavers, all of the brown. And then another thing we'll talk about at the PIP is that there's a retention that's going to be put in underneath the village green. So a large-scale retention below there, too.
Okay. So if you look at the property and you're facing the Boston Store entrance, up on the hill where the Explorium restaurant is to the south, between that upper elevation and the Boston Store side is a staircase. And a resident asked, is the staircase going to remain? Is the Boston Store property going to be elevated? How is all that going to work, do you know?
Yeah, so I don't have the grading plan with me. I think the basic elevation that the Boston Store is at will remain, so that we'll be close to that elevation, not at the finished phase one. And then, this on the screen here, this is where a lot of that elevation change happens. So there's still going to be a road pass through there. I can't quite picture where that stair exists today, but I will say there will be a lot of change that has to happen for phase two when that building goes in. It's also probably helpful to know that phase one, while it's only one building, actually includes the entirety of all of this streetscape work, all of the village green work, basically everything that's in color here. So it's not as if we're just going to put phase one in and everything else is a parking lot. It's actually a lot of the infrastructure and streetscapes will be part of Phase 1 as well.
Okay, so you answered my next question was, when will the Village Green be completed? So that's along with Phase 1. So you've talked about larger scale pedestrian events and special events, and, you know, it's been mentioned, farmers markets and different things at this green space. Has anyone considered putting in a very small restroom in one of the buildings? And the reason I ask is when events take place down here, restrooms are always a topic of conversation, and I believe that at Drexel Town Square, next to one of the restaurants, there is a separate public restroom. And that might be advantageous, so I thought I'd mention it now in the beginning phases of this, because public restrooms, I guess people might be able to go to the mall or go to McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, but if something could be incorporated, especially when you keep talking about, and we've talked about, events on that green space. So that's just a comment. And then the last thing is for maybe Barrett Lowe's attorney or somebody, Schedule G is the title commitment in our packet, and it says the development is in Glendale, Wisconsin, and we're in Greendale, so they should probably get that
Seems like an important one to change.
corrected. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other, Chief?
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Three quick ones. Is there gonna be any
Chief, sorry, we need your, the Jerry Springer microphone.
Just curious if there'll be any electric car charging stations?
That is something that we're talking about, but I wouldn't be able to say with 100% certainty yes or no yet. Is that accurate? Are you, do you have concerns?
Just another thing that we would have to be aware of.
Yeah, it's being discussed. We'll certainly have an answer when we come in for the PIP with more developed ideas there. Yeah, something that that BLBD is considering but hasn't decided one way or the other.
Okay, and is there underground parking at all?
Nope, the 2 floors of parking in Phase 1, but no underground parking.
So would there be an exit and an entry, not just coming out and entering in the same location?
It's at Phase 1. It is, again, all this will be in the PIP, but Phase 1 will have a separate entry for loading, and then one entry and exit point for the Phase 1 parking. So it's a 24-foot wide, one-way either direction.
And then the last question is, what is the highest point and height of the building? Just thinking of my ladder trucks.
Phase 1 is 75 feet to the highest point.
It's the highest point.
And
Thanks.
then, we'll have more information in sections and things like that when we go in for the PIP with exact floor heights and things like that for Phase 1.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Brian and Meredith are here from Vanderwall to give a presentation.
So Brian Munson and Meredith Perks from Vanderwall and Associates are our consultant planner on this project, so they've been closely reviewing the project and have a memo to present to us.
Yes, so good evening. Again, Brian Munson with Vanderwall and Associates. So we have been working with village staff on reviewing the application and wanted to highlight a couple of elements in the packet memo that we put in today because it speaks quite a bit to the process we're going through. As Mike mentioned, this is a multi-step zoning and review process. So tonight, the general development plan is in essence the master plan and vision for the property. It sets forward the general guidelines for height, building placement, configuration, number of units, parking stalls, some of the high-level items that go into making the project work. But it's certainly not the detailed review that's necessary for the next step. In the PIP stage is where we will have much greater details that get into exactly how the site addresses some of the chief's concerns, the engineering concerns, architectural details, landscape plans, all of the elements that go into the creation of the actual individual buildings. And I note that because, as I said, it's a multi-step process, and it's likely going to happen over several years, over several different phases. So this project will set the guidelines tonight, but will evolve as it moves into the implementation stages. And that's important because it won't happen overnight. It won't be all built at once. There will be changes in the architecture, but what we're setting today is the guidelines that will allow the development team to develop those finalized plans under a set of rules. So we wanted to highlight a couple of the key components in the review of that tonight, because they are mostly PIP elements, but we want to put them in the record so the team's on notice that there are some items they need to take some careful attention to. The first of which, if you want to follow along, this is page 3 of our memo, is the area on the north side of the building between the new Phase 1 building and the existing mall. Of course, the Boston store is going to be torn down. We'll have to have a new exterior wall for the mall. We need to know what that looks like, what the materials are, and what the space between the buildings what do the final plans look like, to make sure that that doesn't become a kind of blank canyon between the two buildings. So a couple things for them to take a look at as far as PIPs is addressing those elements beyond just that first phase building and making sure that that's included in that submittal. The next piece is really looking at the activation of the streetscapes, and I think Nathaniel put a comment in there about making sure it's pedestrian friendly, and we echo that. But going one step further, kind of identifying where the primary streetscapes with the activity that isn't just architecture, but interface between the sidewalk and the interior of the building. So windows, lobbies, doors, things that truly give life to a street. Identifying where those are going to happen on the buildings so they kind of focus that pedestrian experience around the village green and the primary street. Recognizing that as we move around the buildings, we really don't have the market for retail on the backside of some of these buildings, or grade change may preclude that. So it will take a different architectural treatment for the secondary facades on the first floor than it does for the primary facades. And again, those primary facades really being the retail, amenity, and active spaces. So as they move into the design of the PIP, really taking that next level of focus to make sure that those streetscapes truly become activated by the buildings themselves and don't have kind of a blank wall treatment anywhere that is in a primary facade position. Some of the other components that we touched on really have to do with coordination in these next phases. As the chief mentioned, there's very detailed elements that need to be addressed to make sure that we have good fire access throughout the site, that we can get garbage and loading to not just the mall, but to the buildings, making sure we can get fire trucks through the site, making sure hoses can get all the way to the buildings, and that it is a safe environment at the end of the day. So just again, noting some of the elements that need to be addressed in the first PIPs. And I know that the team is working on those from the conversations that we've had. And then finally, addressing some of the civil landscape design elements to make sure that as we move into those detailed plans, that we have the information available to make sure that each of the phases gets built and are finished in a way that both allows us to adapt future phases, but continue the vision and character that's been set forth at tonight's meeting. One key element we did want to point out, and that as we took a review of the compliance with the ordinances, there is a request, the primary variance request for tonight has to do with the parking configuration that's being delivered. The city standard is 1.6 parking stalls per residential dwelling unit. What they are proposing is an average of 1.4 across the entire site, recognizing that phase 1 would have about a 1.26. So there's some variation. I would note that that is fairly common in projects of this type, where we're looking at a redevelopment of a mall into a more activated space, a more urban space, and we're comfortable that the 1.4 stalls average would accommodate the needs of the users. But again, it comes down to the details. In that the next PIP phases will have to start identifying the distribution of unit types within projects. So if this is all 1 bedrooms, 1.4 stalls or lower might even be appropriate. If they were all 2 and 3 bedrooms, we would give pause and say, okay, that needs to be reevaluated. But along that lines, of course, the development team has millions of reasons why they want to make sure that the parking delivery works, because they need to be able to rent the units. We recognize that a phased delivery will allow them to pivot. If they find in the first building that there is a different demographic desire than anticipated, phases 2, 3, and 4 could be redesigned to accommodate that and reflect that change in market. Or conversely, if they find it hits the market perfect, then moving into the next phases, they have some concrete response that they can then design around. So the fact that it's going to be implemented over multiple phases is beneficial because it will be continuously evaluated as they have to rent the units, they have to try to get the retail uses activated and occupied. So each step along the way, I'm sure they'll be doing a reevaluation, and they'll have an opportunity to bring that to this body for consideration in subsequent PIPs. So tonight, we set the master plan and the guideline vision for the overall. The details, which are very important, do come at future phases and will be back in front of this body for consideration. So again, we echo Mike's comments and recommendation for a motion of approval, incorporating the comments listed within both the zoning review packet as well as the engineering packet. And so happy to answer any questions, or I could turn it over to you, Jake, to touch on the engineering memo if you would like.
Brian, just for clarification, so on the parking item, by approving this tonight, is the board approving a set ratio, or is there still flexibility to review it in more detail, as you mentioned, as they come forward with the next phase to look at, the unit types and that type of thing?
The way it is currently worded, it would be approval of the set ratio of an average of 1.4, recognizing in their packet that phase 1 is at 1.26, and then future phases would adjust to achieve that 1.4. But this is effectively approving the overall unit count and the overall parking delivery within this GDP.
Okay, so there were a couple board members did reach out about the parking ratio, and so perhaps there should be some discussion maybe about that to give some general feedback. Is that, is 1.4, are we comfortable with that? Do we need some more information? But now I guess would be the good time to kind of talk through that as we're sort of approving the overall, parking ratio of the project, I guess.
Trustee Lamb.
So how many parking spots will there be in there? Will there be enough, like at least one car for every unit in the parking garage?
I would defer that one to the team.
It's 1.2 for every unit.
So, yeah, so
But
it'd be,
in the parking garage or outside also?
yeah, so phase 1 would have more than one car per unit. It's 1.24 or 26 cars per unit. And yeah, that's based on, it was designed that way because it's actually exactly what Parterre was, another BLV development that's been quite successful, where the ratio is 1.24. And part of that has to do exactly with that, with the mix. So there's a lot of, one-bedroom units, a lot of junior one-bedroom units, sort of like a studio where you'd anticipate, probably one person living there. So yeah, 1.24 cars per unit. Yeah, works out to roughly about a car per bed.
Somewhere around there. Did you have a question? Trustee Unger?
I have a question. It's not about parking, but do you have any idea what type of commercial or retail the developer is looking to pursue?
I think in terms of where we are in the approval process for the general development plan, we are identifying it as effectively general retail. If they have anything in mind, that would really come forward even probably after the PIP stage. From a zoning sense, this is kind of identifying this as appropriate location for retail uses consistent with an urban environment. So there's really not a limitation in what types could go in there unless there was a desire by this body to offer up any limitations. But I would think just a general retail configuration right now. As they move further in the design of the buildings, they'll be able to have a little bit more information about potential tenants. But even then, they may not have a tenant in hand when they come with the PIP. That would be something that would then potentially be available at a later date.
Other questions?
I would note one other thing before we turn it over to Jake. So we also talked about exterior materials, and so based on the materials that they're currently proposing, They would be coming forward to also request a zoning text amendment to allow some flexibility of materials as well. So I just wanted to point that out. Concurrently with the next stage, there will be zoning text amendment to specify or to allow for the types of materials that are being proposed in the project.
Question on the parking. So it's 1.4 overall, 1.24 in building 1. So you run out of parking in building 1, people have to park in building 2?
So it's more about the unit mix, so it would be probably phase 2.
Sarah, do you want to get a microphone? We have a microphone as well, we can pass around.
Sorry. So it's a little bit more about unit mix or the type of units, right? So phase 1 is probably a little heavy on the 1-bedrooms and junior ones, which is why it's a lower ratio. I would think that phase 2 and phase 3, it's probably a few more 2-bedrooms, 3-bedrooms. So you'd see that almost flip and be higher than 1.4. So it'd probably be closer to a 1.6 or something in that neighborhood. So a lot of it has to do with, how many. It's not so much how many units, it's more about how many beds, because you're going to have more people in a 3-bedroom than a junior one. So phase 1, it's 150 or 160 junior ones and 1-bedrooms. So a lot of that type. Does that answer the question?
It does, but what happens when all the parking is full in building 1 and you need another 100 spots, or 50, or whatever the
Sure.
thing is?
I think that I know some developers will basically offer parking spots in a future phase, right? So if you could have a spot in 1 and a spot in the phase 2. You'd have to cross the green, so that would be one strategy.
Okay. The building that you mentioned started with a P.
Parterre.
Where is that located?
It's over in Emerald,
Creek.
Drexel.
Drexel.
Mill Creek,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's all parking inside of the building also?
So I didn't design, our firm didn't do that one, but I think it's a lot inside the building, and it's a similar scale project in terms of, 200 plus or minus units.
And it's fully rented out?
I think he's at about 95%. That's the other point in terms of the parking ratio. That's assuming 100% occupancy, which will never be the case. Occupancy on a good day is 90, almost never more than 95%, so that he's got units to lease. So that one's done very well, I know. And a lot of it's market driven, right? He wants to provide enough parking for his renters and the people that are in the space. Otherwise, it becomes a problem for actually selling the building, right? Selling the units.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
And then Jake Scholbe, our village engineer, also provided a memo that he can give a brief overview on.
Good evening. As the village planning consultant kind of went over already, this general development plan submittal was kind of more of a concept plan, more master plan. When it comes to kind of engineering regarding this first submittal, I would kind of describe it as a preliminary civil engineering plans, or what I would call a 30% plan. So regarding my review, there was not much in-depth review on my part because there just wasn't much material there. I did have some general comments as outlined in my staff memo. Really just pertains to kind of the sewer and stormwater design of the site, kind of just allowing for better hydraulics and kind of building things to village standards. And then kind of to echo what the planning consultant was saying, a lot of our review engineering-wise is going to happen during this precise implementation plan submittal. So that's where we'll see kind of what we'll call construction drawings, full civil engineering plans where we can do a thorough review and start that review process and that back and forth with the developer's engineer. A couple things to note. With a big, large phase development like this, there's a couple aspects you always want to get on top of and look at right at the start, and one of those is wastewater flows. So one of my comments here, and I've been working with the developer's engineer, Grave, is determining the proposed wastewater flows from the site as you potentially full build-out, have 700 plus apartment units. That's a significant amount of wastewater flow that's going to be added to the existing village sanitary sewer system. So we want to make sure the sewer system can handle that. We are in process of currently analyzing the downstream sewer system for capacity, and we can kind of address those if we find any issues moving forward. Another aspect would be traffic as well, so I did request a traffic study from their Grafe, the developer's engineer, kind of just looking for, I've had a few meetings and discussions with them, but really we're just kind of looking for a level of service analysis, kind of what the existing traffic counts are there on 76th and Grange within those corridors, and essentially always one thing that would be a concern that I wanted to make sure they take a close look at would be any southbound traffic movements on 76th that want to take left turns into this development, because typically with left turn lanes, if you don't have enough queue storage, those cars can start to back up onto 76th and it can really impede traffic very quickly. So these are all things you kind of want to get in front of and address on the front end. So all the infrastructure is kind of set up through the next phases of the development. You're not trying to change things at the end. And then as I'll echo and touch on Trustee Unger's comments from earlier, she did mention a few engineering aspects, and all of those things will be looked at very closely in the precise implementation plan. And as a part of the precise implementation plan submittals, we will be addressing them to the fire chief, that for their review, they will have to go to the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, the county, the DNR. Everyone's going to have their kind of cut at this, and we'll all review it. So just like the village planner and the village manager, I do recommend that the village board approve the general development plan just based on the staff comments in the reports, and I will answer any questions you guys have.
Any questions?
I just have one more question. Sorry about parking. Do you know if they're going to charge for parking, or has that been determined yet?
That I cannot answer.
Is there an extra fee?
I'm not actually aware if it will be an extra fee added to a rent or how the developer plans. Can try to get more information on that.
They'll charge for parking.
Okay.
Are they, that typical?
100% of the time.
For them, because I know that Greenbelt charges for parking. For indoor parking spaces.
Yeah, it sounds like that's the norm.
That they do charge?
Yes, is what I'm hearing.
Anything else?
Something else?
Okay.
All right.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, good presentation.
You want to make a motion?
Do you have to? You worked on it. I'd like to make a motion for the village board to approve the presented plan development overlay district general development plan, subject to the conditions in the planner's memo dated May 30th, 2025, and the village engineer's memo dated May 30th, 2025, as presented by the speakers.
Second motion?
Any other discussion? I see none. I'll ask for roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, guys, for coming in, for doing the reports.
Not since you worked so hard on it.
This one next?
Yep, that's all right. Take it down.
And then I want to just do one more quick one, and then we'll go back, okay? Item B, BOT 2560, discussion and necessary action regarding a resolution acknowledging the filing of the village's 2024 sanitary sewer compliance report with the DNR.
Which one are we at?
Item B.
B?
Under new business.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So attached is a resolution pertains to the requirement under the Wisconsin Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit as issued by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for the Village of Greendale to submit a compliance maintenance annual report for the year 2024. This requirement is accordance with the Wisconsin Administration Code NR 208. The resolution acknowledges the village board's review of the CMAR and highlights the need to address any deficiencies identified in the report. The report does not identify any deficiencies as of now. Anything with a grade C or lower would require something done. Our grade currently is an A, So currently, we're asking the board to acknowledge their review of the maintenance report and approve it for 2024.
I'll move to approve the resolution acknowledging the compliance maintenance annual report for the year 2024.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
No.
Roll
Good.
call, please.
Good documentation.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Buckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Sabrowski?
Thank you. All right, going back to standing committee reports, Trustee Barbian.
Thank you, President Sabrowski.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First one on the Finance Committee is discussion necessary action regarding awarding the bid for the fiber optic construction to connect the water pump station to the village fiber network, FC 2527. I'd like to recommend from Finance Committee for the village board to award the bid to the pump station fiber optic expansion project to DeLuca and Tobin Cable Contractors in the amount of $57,285.56.
Second.
Second the motion.
Please fill in the background.
Yep, so this connects the pump station to our village-owned fiber optic network. We did have several bids on this one. It was good to see the interest. Also good to see it came in almost 38,000 under.
Yes.
I did ask why such the difference from the budgeted amount to what the bids came in at. And the answer was a lot of times when there is a shorter build, this is a relatively short distance to go, the project can be inflated a bit for getting all of the resources there on site, and then just to do a small, relatively small project was the answer. But in the end, I'm happy as to where the bids came.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to answer any questions.
That's great.
Trustee Younger.
Where will this work take place? Where is this, and will it disrupt traffic?
So it is between the safety center and the pump station, which is on South 60th, so
Okay.
essentially just down the road a little bit.
Yep.
I have a question too. This is the last fiber optic thing we have to connect, isn't it?
No, in the budget, there is a long-range budget plan. There are 2 flow control stations to connect. And then it would be my recommendation we start looking at constructing rings. So right now, we have single points of failure all over the place. Probably shouldn't speak to where those are. But if there's a backhoe that rips through fiber, you could take sets of buildings down right now. And so it's very common to construct redundant paths between buildings so that if you sustain a break in one spot, you can automatically fail over to that other one. So that would be my recommendation, that we start thinking about that more on the long term.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for this topic? Good work. I see none, and again, this was a budgeted item that we talked about and came in well under budget, which is great to hear. Great to hear.
Yes, it is.
In that case, I'd ask for a roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Buckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Sabrowski?
Aye.
Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the list, discuss the necessary action of filing of a purchased water adjustment case, PWAC for the water utility, FC 2528. Finance Committee is moving to approve authorizing purchased water adjustment clause increase as soon as Milwaukee Water Works new rates are approved by the Public Service Commission.
Second.
Information background?
Yep, so recently informed, Milwaukee Water Works applied for a simplified rate increase, which is a 3% increase on their wholesale water rates. Those rates will take effect August 1st, and so it's always a recommendation from our financial advisor to go ahead and submit the purchased water adjustment clause, which basically allows us to collect that increase amount on the wholesale water. It doesn't come out to 3%, it comes out to about 0.7% of an increase on what would be the sample bill for residents, which amounts to about a 71 cents per quarter increase per the average household. So staff would recommend authorizing staff to proceed with submitting that PWAC as soon as Milwaukee Water Works receives their approval from the PSC.
Thank you. Questions for the manager? Trustee Unger?
Is the $1,000 for Ellers budgeted for, since we probably didn't know this was going to happen?
No, but, so this is within our water utility. Our water utility allows for a certain amount of, financial assistance in the year, so it's absorbed in the utilities fund without any issues.
Okay.
Trustee Feckmeyer, was that your hand going up or just? Oh.
No.
I couldn't tell, so. Any other questions in regards to this? Okay. There's no chance them changing their mind and raising it to more than the 3%, that's already been.
Yep, they already submitted their application within the last couple months, and so it was just approved by the PSC at that amount, so no, that's what it is. And I would note that this was their first, the last time they did this was in March 1st, 2023, that they did an adjustment, and then we went and did the purchase water adjustment clause in the same way.
Okay, thank you. I see no other questions, so I would ask for roll call.
Trustee Burbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Feckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye.
President Zabrowski, that concludes the Finance Committee for tonight.
That works, thank you. Any committees have any reports this evening?
Health Department does, but then it's the first on library.
Sure. Yes, I have a library update. Earlier this year, Milwaukee County Public Libraries, including Greendale, participated in the Great Library Treasure Hunt, which was a scavenger hunt style event encouraging patrons to visit libraries in the area and write down their favorite thing about each library. And then they would get a map stamped to win prizes. So I just want to share what visitors to Greendale's library had to say about our library. Some of the positive feedback included they really liked the little children's shopping carts that kids use when they walk through our library. They liked the round bouncy chairs that are in the teen area, the student artwork that was on display. They said we have attractive book displays. They liked that there were different departments in the CLC, so the Health Department, the Park and Rec, and the library combined. They liked the Rockwell displays, the teen zone, and its location on a commercial street and the natural light in our library. 3 new Explorer passes have been added to the library's collection for patrons to check out. They include the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame, the Ware Nature Center parking, and the Little Village Play Cafe, which is located in Wauwatosa. So it's a combination cafe with a children's play space. So if patrons are interested, they can check out the Explorer passes from the library to see what Explorer passes are available. You can go to the Greendale Public Library website, which is greendalepubliclibrary.info, and click on the Explorer Passes tab. Thank you.
You got a question?
No, not from her, just I do have a report too.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm next.
All right, go ahead.
Health Department. Got several things to touch base on. Want to give a couple of updates. Again, Health Department is involved in so many different things, but recent events, the Community Safety Day and Schools Out event were huge successes. There was great weather, great attendance, lots of fun activities to do, celebrate the start of summer. Health Department was intricately involved in aspects of that, and appreciate that. Health Department also has coordinated Safe Talk Suicide Prevention Training on June 26th from 5 to 9 p.m. That's June 26th, 5 to 9 p.m. This is a 4-hour training for anyone interested. Registration is required. So if you're interested in this, please contact our health department. Still have time to get in. Health department has launched a monthly newsletter sign-up. To receive it by stopping in the health department, calling, or you can sign up on their website. And this is going to have lots of different updates that are just happening that you want to know about, new things that are happening, new events that they're going to get involved with. So hopefully, as this gets around, lots of the Greendale residents will sign up to get this newsletter. And so I appreciate the hundreds of people that are watching to sign up. Another reminder, Greendale Downtown Market starts this Saturday at 8 p.m. till 12 a.m. That's right. Why did I say p.m.?
Because that's when you'll be there.
That's what I'll be there. There will be over 60 vendors, food, music, and KinderCare sponsoring this first market with additional activities for kids. So hopefully bring your kids down. This will be a great event. We've mentioned it many times before, but for those watching, this year it will be moved down in front of Gazebo, going from Schoolway over to Crocus Court. They will all fit in there, and it'll be a nice event. Music will be under the gazebo. So that's basically we have for Health Department. Community Alliance subgroup, Health Department might have an update.
Yes, just one item. These free to explore summer checklists are available in the Health Department lobby. These were handed out during Schools Out, and what they are checklists of activities for all age groups. And what's special about the activities is they are all tech-free activities. So I was working the Community Alliance table during Schools Out, and I was handing these out to parents, and word got out, and parents were coming to the table to look for their copy, grandparents too. So I have some here for anyone who wants to take them. Again, they're available in the CLC outside the Health Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that everything?
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, I just wanted to bring up for public celebration that I think all of you know that we didn't budget enough for the parade this year. So we reached out to the community to see who could donate and sponsor some events or sponsor the parade. And I want to just report that we really was great that the people that reached out to us that they would sponsor. The Greendale Lions and Waterstone Bank, Greendale Women's Club, Grand Haven LLC, the Greendale Trail Association, and GEA. So that, I just want to make mention of that how great it was now that we'll have enough money that we won't have to, have an out-of-budget expense.
Well done.
Can I also mention, we miss Waterstone Bank was one of our big sponsors as well.
I said Waterstone Bank.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. So it was 7 sponsors, one chose to be anonymous for $4,750. It wasn't that we didn't budget enough, we budgeted what we normally do. It's just that when they started planning the parade, everything had gone up. All of the acts and vendors, the prices had gone up. So they were finding out that to do the same, as good a parade as we normally have, they were going to be over budget. So with this, I think we met our budget. Right, Donna?
Yes, I do believe so.
Trustee Unger?
I have a quick comment. So I have been to parades in other communities, especially in rural Wisconsin. And maybe this is done in Greendale, or maybe it has been done in the past, but a lot of times units pay to participate in a parade instead of the municipality paying money for units to come to a parade. To be a unit in a parade, you pay a fee as a nonprofit or a business. For instance, I'll pick on Jason. He could pay a fee of, $50, $25, have it be different for nonprofits or commercial entities, and he could be a unit in the parade to advertise his business. So if push comes to shove someday down the road and we feel like we can no longer budget for the parade. There are ways of doing parades. Still fun, still throwing the candy, where you're not paying units to come to Greendale. Units like, or even political candidates could pay $25 to be a unit in the parade, or, different businesses. So that's just an idea. I've seen it in different parts of Wisconsin.
We did have that at one point.
Yeah.
Most of this is entertainment, and
Right.
they will not pay us. And we just don't want to have all businesses a business.
Right, but if push comes to shove, you could do, 50% one way, 50% another way. It's just an idea.
Sure.
If things get, kind of tight in future years.
We used to allow that, and we did charge for businesses to be in the parade, but we got a lot of complaints from people that it was boring, that, the J&J truck went by, and then the Ricardo's car went by, and it wasn't very entertaining, because there was a lot of that.
Right.
So we have some different ideas, though, for possibly going back to that. So the committee is talking about a lot of different ideas to cut costs or get more sponsorships.
And then we also did start saying, like, if it was a business that was going to be in the parade, they'd have to offer entertainment. That's what we had changed it to, and that's why we have such a
Interesting.
wonderful parade.
Awesome.
That's a good idea, too.
Yeah, and I was just going to note, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that Rachel Geitman, Amy Oyen, both volunteers, do most of the work. Donna, Colleen helped, obviously, get those sponsors as well, but Rachel and Amy do an awesome job, and very thankful for what they do organizing the parade. We have talked about, some kind of admission fee. I think one of the issues, too, is that we're, compared to like some of maybe the more rural communities or isolated, we're competing with all the surrounding communities and trying to get entertainment and make ours, as captivating as some of the other ones in the area. So it is a little bit of a competition of getting, good acts and stuff, but Amy and Rachel do an awesome job, and as well as the other PCC members who help as well.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Especially the day of the parade. It's quite crazy, and it takes a lot of volunteers.
Just a quick one from Park and Rec. Ron hit on about the market, so I won't talk about that. Summer programming is going well for Ryan, and J.C. Park is now open. As everybody, it is, they did a nice job on that. It's a beautiful park, so that's it.
Yes, it is. Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else that covers everything, right? All right, no old business at this time. And moving on to new business, item C, BOT 2561, discussion necessary action regarding ordinance to repeal and recreate section 27.36 and 27.37 of the village code regarding weights and measures.
So the village attorney has identified that a village's current ordinance on weights and measures lacks a little bit of clarity relating specifically to point-of-sale scanners, which are covered under the state of Wisconsin's definition of weights and measures. We currently contract with the state to do our weights and measures inspections, so really we administer the licenses to help offset the costs of the state inspectors doing the inspections. So again, that does include point-of-sale scanners. It was not clear that in our ordinance that point-of-sale scanners are included in that, so the village attorney had put together an ordinance to specify that so that it's crystal clear going forward and that it matches up in unison with the state administrative code. So a draft proposed ordinance is in your packet, and staff recommends its approval.
Any questions? Trustee Sal.
I will move to approve the ordinance to repeal and recreate sections 27.36 and 27.37 of the village code regarding weights and measures.
Second it. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette? President Zabrowski?
Aye, thank you. Item D, BOT 2562, discussion necessary action regarding the application for Class A, B, and C liquor, beer, wine, regular and temporary, and amusement arcade devices for the period of 7/1/2025 and 6/30/2026.
This is just our annual renewals for our alcohol and amusement There were a couple of changes that are different this year, like I mentioned in my staff memo. Speedway, located at 5490 South 76th Street, is requesting a Class A fermented malt beverage and liquor license. They currently don't have an alcohol license. Class A's don't affect any of our quota or anything, it's just a retail. Explorium Brew Pub has filed with the state to become a brewery. That allows them one full-service on-site retail license. So we, at the municipal level, will no longer license them. It is all done through the state. So that does give us another reserve license. So now we're up to 7 reserve licenses that we have left over. And the other slight change is to Dia Noche's premise, and they no longer included the parking lot like they did last year.
Can I ask a question then?
Yeah.
This is probably obvious, but I'm missing it, but Explorium Brew Pub, aren't they already a brewery?
No, so they're a brew pub. So there's different levels depending on what they manufacture. And so he's been classified as a brew pub. And then now he produces or manufactures enough to be considered a brewery. And breweries are licensed through the state. And then with the recent liquor law changes in '23, that is when it changed that breweries can now have a full retail license.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the list of business license applications, including liquor, beer, fermented malt beverages, wine, and amusement arcade device licenses for the period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026.
Second the motion?
All right, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zaborowski?
Aye, thank you. Item E, BOT 2563, discussion necessary action regarding application from the Greendale Lions Club for a temporary Class B license for Family Fourth Fest, July 2nd through the 5th, 2025.
I don't know, you want me to take that? I mean, it's the same thing that they do every year.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the temporary Class B fermented malt beverage and wine license from the Greendale Lions Foundation for Family Fourth Fest.
Second the motion?
Any discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zaborowski?
Aye, thank you. Item F, BOT 2564, discussion and necessary action on application for special event permit submitted by Circa Entertainment 3 LLC for Paramount Circa on June 27th to 30th, 2025 at Southridge Mall.
So Cirque Entertainment LLC has submitted their application for Paranormal Cirque. This event will be held at the Southridge Mall parking lot, just southwest of Macy's, from June 27th to June 30th, 2025. The event is described as a crazy yet fun fusion between circus, theater, and cabaret in a perfect harmony with the evolution of a show that brings you back to when you dream. This event is restricted by age for anyone under 17, requires an accompanying parent or guardian over 21 with photo ID. No one under 13 is admitted. Public Celebrations Committee approved this application at the June 10th, 2025 meeting with no conditions. The village manager, police chief, and myself have reviewed the application, approve it with no conditions. It's worth noting that this ticketed event has taken place many times over the years with no issues from the police department's perspective. This is not the carnival where we had the issues before. So no fiscal implications other than a permit that will obtain from the Greendale Water Utility for a water connection and meter.
I'll move to approve a special event permit submitted by Cirque Entertainment 3 LLC for Paranormal Cirque on June 27th to the 30th, 2025 at Southridge Mall.
Second the motion?
Any questions? Yep.
I was just comment, I agree with you. I went, I think, 2 years ago. It's a really neat event for those who haven't gone. It's not the amusement thing.
I looked it up online. It looks pretty crazy.
It's really, really impressive.
All right, any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zaborowski?
Aye, thank you. Item G, BOT 2565, discussion S or action on application for a special event permit submitted by the Greendale Twilight for the Greendale Twilight All-Star Event on July 12th, 2025 at the Community Center Park.
So this is the Greendale Twilight Annual All-Star Event. It will take place Saturday, July 12th, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Greendale Community Center. The event will feature a full day of all-star baseball and softball games. Food trucks will be on site offering refreshments for families and attendees throughout the day. The Greendale Twilight Association has also reserved the pavilion for the event. All staff time, materials, and pavilion rental costs have already been covered by Twilight. The Public Celebrations Committee approved the application at the June 10th meeting. The village manager, police chief, and myself have reviewed the applications with no conditions, and as stated, materials and staff time were paid at a cost of $312.26.
Make a motion to approve the application for a special event permit submitted by Greendale Twilight for the Twilight All-Star Event on July 12th, 2025 at Community Center Park.
Second motion?
Any other discussion? Trustee Unger?
Have the food vendors applied for a permit?
They have not. They have up to 10 days prior to the event to do that.
Okay. Thanks.
Trustee Barbie?
Just have a comment. This is a great event. I mean, I think almost everybody here at the table has been involved in Twilight. When I was the league director back a long, long time ago, I know, we had one time there was a rain delay, or rain day, and it had to be moved. So I would just mention that, and I don't know if it's right, but if this date doesn't happen, are they doing because the kids really look forward to it All-Star. I think that's a big deal.
They didn't submit anything as far as a rain day or, moving it to, another day, so I don't have that answer, but.
Okay. I think they should have, but okay. It's a big deal. These kids, they keep those trophies and they have that at the end, so.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Feckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zaborowski?
Aye, thank you. HBOT 2566, discussion S or action on application for a special event permit submitted by the Greendale Historical Society for their 50th anniversary event on July 20th, 2025 at the Host Tower.
So the Greendale Historical Society will be celebrating its 50th anniversary on Sunday, July 20th, 2025, from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Greendale Host Tower. Members will be present to commemorate 50 years of achievement, share the history of the society, and introduce residents to the value of preserving Greendale's heritage. The west portion of the municipal parking lot will be closed for the event to accommodate multiple food trucks, children's activities. The Diamond Tea will also be on site offering rides. The public celebrations approved this application at the June 10th meeting. The village manager, police chief, and myself reviewed it and had no conditions. All materials and staff time have been paid at a cost of $1,076.68.
What is the time of the event?
The time event is 1 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve the application for a special event permit submitted by Greendale Historical Society for their 50th anniversary event on July 20th, 2025 at the Host Tower.
Second motion?
Colleen?
Well, I know, I think they're setting up starting Friday, correct?
So we moved it from Friday to Saturday. They originally had the host tower blocked off for Friday and Saturday. We asked them just to move it to Saturday for setup for the event Sunday. So we'll have the host tower available to rent on Friday if anybody decides to, but their setup day is just going to be Saturday.
So the parking lot that's going to be partially closed off, is that only during the event, only Sunday?
No, that west portion will be closed 3 days prior to the event. So it takes us about 3 days to filter those cars out. So there will be a portion where that west portion of the parking lot, just closest to the woods, is closed. And it usually takes us a few days to get the cars out of there because people have a tendency to park there overnight. So the actual setup of the...
How many parking spots is that? I'm just wondering, because it's a weekend.
Rough guess, I'd say 20.
20? Okay.
All right, any other, yes.
Do you know what Jester Fun Entertainment does?
Balloons, I believe.
I do not.
I believe those were
Is it
balloons.
balloon animals?
Balloons.
Balloon animals or, okay.
Make balloons.
Mhm.
I think it's a very expensive balloon, man.
They're really good. We have them at Village Day too.
Okay,
Well,
I wasn't sure
yeah.
if it was like big bouncy things. Okay.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Absolutely.
Trustee Sel?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Okay, thanks. Item B, BOT 2567, discussion and necessary action on application for a special event permit submitted by the Original GTO Club of Wisconsin for the GTO Car Show as part of the Village Days on August 9th, 2025 on Broad Street.
So the original GTO Club of Wisconsin has submitted their application for the annual GTO Car Show that will be held during Village Days on Saturday, August 9th, 2025, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. The show will feature GTOs lined up along Broad Street from Crocus, extending to the north entrances of Grand Haven LLC. This event will coincide with the Village Days activities, including the Lions Rummage on the Green and the Greendale Downtown Market. Public Celebrations Committee approved this application on June 10th. The village manager, police chief, and myself had met with both groups during a meeting and established a good plan for all vendors for entering and exiting the event. Materials and staff costs were waived for this portion of the Village Day celebration, but it is to note that the original GTO Club has agreed to making a $100 donation for the village's events fund.
Oh, nice.
That is nice.
I'll move to approve the application for a special event permit submitted by the Original GTO Club of Wisconsin for the GTO Car Show as part of Village Days on August 9th, 2025 on Broad Street.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? No? Just want to say I just think it's so cool having this here and excited to see it again this year. So thank you to everyone that's involved with it. So roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sel?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye, thank you. Item J, BOT 2568, discussion and necessary action on an application for a special event permit submitted by J&J Contractors and Greendale Education Foundation for the Greendale Summer Bash on August 23rd, 2025 on the Greendale Middle School grounds and the ring road between J&J Contractors and Middle School.
So J&J Contractors and the Greendale Education Foundation have submitted an application for the Greendale Summer Bash scheduled for Saturday, August 23rd, 2025, from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. This event is a community celebration focused on family fun and serves as a fundraiser for the Greendale Education Foundation. It will take place on the ring road between J&J Contractors and the Greendale Middle School. The event will feature free activities for kids, including a petting zoo, face painting, balloon animals, and much more. The Public Celebrations Committee approved the application at the June 10th meeting with no conditions, but suggested hand washing stations near the petting zoo area and managing the garbage more often during the event. The village manager, police chief, and myself reviewed it and approved the application with no conditions. And also materials and staff times have been paid for at a total of $443.32.
I'd like to make a motion for the village board to approve the application submitted by J&J Contractors and the Greendale Education Association for the Greendale Summer Bash event on August 23rd, 2025 on the Greendale Middle School grounds and the ring road between J&J Contractors and the middle school.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Trustee Unger?
Quick question. Is the applicant exempt from the $50 application fee?
No.
No.
Okay. Then I think that might need to be added to this page 4 of the application. There's $100 on here too for barriers for the road.
Yeah, it's 150 at the end.
Oh, it's not on mine.
It includes the application fee, and then the staff time was $293.32 for a total of $43.32.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it on the subtotal page. Okay.
discussion?
There's two copies. There's two copies of the, right, there's two copies of the fee schedule in their packet. There's the one that's submitted, then there's the one that the director puts together, so you might be looking at the,
Oh, so I might be looking at something
Oh, yeah.
different than you.
Yeah, it's the very last one in
Okay.
the packet.
so what happens is the applicant will fill out that section with the fees, but Rod will go through and say, here's what the real fees are, and then fill in the staff version of it.
Oh, I didn't scroll down far enough. Okay.
So maybe in the future, we'll just omit one of them, so it's.
I've run into that before. Sorry.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Affirmative.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Yeah. Back off.
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Abstain.
President Zabrowski?
Abstain. Thank you. Item K, BOT 2569, discussion necessary action on application for a special event permit submitted by Gift of Wings for Halloween's on October 21st through the 26th, 2025 at Gazebo Park.
So Gift of Wings has submitted their application for the annual Halloween's event that's held at Gazebo Park from October 21st to October 26th. The schedule is as follows: October 26th October 21st through the 23rd, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., October 24th, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., October 25th, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and October 26th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. The event will feature live music throughout, concessions provided by Gift of Wings and their annual pumpkin carving display, which will be showcased for the duration of the event. The Public Celebrations Committee approved the application at the June 10th meeting with no conditions. The village manager, police chief, and myself have reviewed the application with no conditions. Staff does recommend the village board consider limiting the number of vendors associated with events and how they relate to the nature and scope of each event. The fiscal implications for materials and staff time have been paid at a total cost of $417.92.
I'll move to approve the application for a special event permit submitted by Gift of Wings for Halloween's on October 21st through the 26th, 2025 at Gazebo Park.
I'll second it.
Trustee Lett?
Just want to thank Scott Fisher and Gift of Wings for putting this on. It's a really great event we have in the village. It's a lot of work that he goes through for these weekends, and just want to tell him we appreciate that.
Trustee Barbian?
Yeah, I want to echo that too. This is one of those events, we have the Christmas trees are sold by the gazebos, another one. Just kind of brings the community together, particularly the young people. I think it's really neat that Gift of Wings does this.
Yeah. I think last year was the most pumpkins that he had.
They had a lot last year, yeah.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Beckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Zabrowski?
Aye, thank you. Thanks, Rod.
Thanks, Rod.
Any officer reports this evening?
So our next village board meeting is scheduled for July 1st. I believe there have been times where we have not had that meeting due to being close to the 4th of July. As of now, staff at least is planning on us having that meeting. I just want to make sure that there wouldn't be any people out of town or any issues with having that meeting still July 1st. So we'll plan to have that board meeting. Yep.
I sent an email to both of you quite some time ago that that's my family's annual reunion in Minnesota. It's year 77 this year. I'm always gone for that week.
Also, a couple trustees raised or wanted to discuss the topic of traffic signs and the process for putting up traffic signs. And so looking at having a committee meeting on that, maybe through the Public Health, Safety, Welfare Committee. Was thinking about that day, but we could also aim for a day when the full board will be here, or all the trustees will be here. So we'll look to schedule a meeting soon on that topic.
Thank you.
We are working on a Southridge Master Plan project. We'll be putting some more information in the next Village Views newsletter going out. We are looking at August 5th as the date of that public engagement meeting, which is also the evening of a village board meeting. So we'd be looking at having that at 7 o'clock. Still having an abbreviated board meeting if necessary at 6 o'clock. So just wanted to put that out there, make sure everyone's okay with that date. Having that at the safety center for the, that portion for the master planning session.
Question, had you considered doing it at the hose tower so it's easier to get here or quicker to get here? Like the last engagement session?
Yeah, we can do that as well. Does the safety center have more capacity? I think it's a little bit more capacity. It was pretty tight in there last time.
Okay, whatever you think, otherwise we're hopping in our cars and coming over here and, last time we could just walk over, but
Yeah.
whatever's best for the public.
Okay, yeah, if there's any strong opinions either way.
I personally like the most car, but the other question I was going to mention is, we never know on board meetings, even if we purposely try to abbreviate them. I'm just thinking that maybe you want to consider start our board meeting at 5:30, so that master plan is really important. We've been working towards this for a long time. I don't want to be rushed on a board meeting to get over there. If we start at 5:30, we'll for sure have enough time. It'd be up to you for your decision, or you, Jason. I just think we've been here, all of us have been here a long time, and it's really hard to predict how long our board meetings are going to go.
Yeah, it's true, and it kind of depends on what sort of business comes forward then. We could do a fairly quick business meeting, business style meeting, just having some of our bare bones types of things, and have to hold off some policy types of matters to the second meeting in August. Or, yeah, like you said, do it a little bit earlier. Yeah,
Good call.
Yeah, let's think about that. Work on that. On the note of the master planning project, the Rinka team, we will be having a progress report presentation to the village board at a second meeting in July. So July 15th, we'll be having a meeting. And that will be obviously then in advance of that public meeting. Wanted to also announce the preliminary 2025 assessment roll is available on the village website. This is a maintenance assessment year, so there will only be a limited number of properties that have changed assessments compared to last year. So any properties that had their assessments change should receive an assessment notice in the mail. Those are going out this week. And then any property owner can meet with the village assessor at open book, which will be on June 25th. And board of review will be on July 30th. And I think that's all the updates I got.
Very good. All right, anybody else?
Good update, thank you.
See none? Okay. Citizens' comments, persons wishing to address the board are asked to state their name and address for the record, limit their comments to only one time, limit their comments to 3 minutes or 5 minutes if representing a group of persons. Citizens' comments shall be limited to a period not to exceed 15 minutes. Public comments should be addressed to the village board as a body. Any questions or comments directed to any individual, trustee, or staff person will be deemed out of order. Please note the village board can only discuss matters listed on the agenda. Open.
I'm going to finish where Marg's left off. I just have one thing to, real quickly, we just want to remind you of our big event on the 20th, which is the 50th anniversary of the Historical Society. Hose towers from 1 until 4. There will be a lot of activities for kids. We'll have ice cream, food, two food trucks, so it's going to be a good time, so stop there. We also are hoping to continue with the market with our fire truck Diamond T rides, so that will start this week, we hope. So, thank you very much.
Can I get your address?
Who are you?
Oh, Jim Birmingham, 7325 Edge Hill Road, sorry.
Thank you.
I thought I'd seen him before.
Joe West, 5599 Basswood Street. Let's talk events. There's been something missing from events in the village center this year, the portable bathrooms. Somehow this board and staff determined that they needed to start charging to set that up at a rate that events or nonprofits can't afford, even though setup and removal of the portable one doesn't cost overtime pay. Set it up on Friday, take it down on Monday. Why? Well, it seems the board wanted to push the issue for a permanent bathroom facility in Gazebo Park at a tune of $225,000, despite the fact we have a bathroom that's bought and paid for. By the way, that $225,000 the board decided to spend on this wasn't in the budget. Now, they may get a grant to cover half the cost, but when you combine that with the $400,000 spent on unbudgeted sewer work in the industrial park, that brings expenditures of well over out-of-budget expenditures of well over $500,000. And we are only in June. Thank you.
Greg Sylvester, 5902 Broad Street. I'm all for the plan at Southridge, the apartments, the storefronts and stuff. But having said that, I'm concerned that the mall may have more of a drain from its retail vendors moving to this new location, therefore further diminishing or increasing the vacancy of the mall. I would assume at some point in time there's probably going to be a discussion with the mall's owner, and I'm wondering if they, well, hopefully it could encourage them to open up to more commercial ventures. Take, for instance, what the Grand Avenue was is now the Grand. They have a mixed space use on the second floor, and on the first floor they have a food court. Well, forget the food court, but perhaps the mall stores could be on the lower level, and the upstairs could be businesses, other commercial uses. We now have an official brewery in there, and perhaps even some sort of a business incubator, and possibly further down the road, some living spaces in there. That's happening at other malls around the country. And lastly, as far as increasing tax revenue, which this should do, the property that's vacant now up on College that used to be the tennis courts, I know there's green space next to it, and there'd probably be blowback from neighbors there, but that would be a development either for a small group of condos, two-story or something like that, or an apartment. I mean, we need to increase the revenue in the village, and that's just standing there vacant. There's a parking slab there. Like I say, there's green space already next to it, so something to chew on there. Thank you.
Since it was on the agenda, I think I'll comment on the Southridge comment. The developer of the mixed-use development is precluded from poaching any tenants from the mall. No, they can't. They'd be sued if they were.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, because the mall owner saw that and made him agree. Yeah.
I would hope so. Thanks.
Any other comments? I see none. I will close it. Closed session, the board shall convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute, Section 19.851E, to deliberate or negotiate the purchasing of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically discuss redevelopment at the Southridge Mall area and the property at 6190 West Loomis Road. The board will not return to open session to act on matters discussed.
A motion to go into closed session?
I'll second it. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barbian?
Aye.
Trustee Sell?
Aye.
Trustee Unger?
Aye.
Trustee Peckmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
President Ciborowski?
Yeah,